Wait, where did you get that face? The billionaire's glass slipped from his hand, crashing against the marble floor. The music in the grand ballroom faded. Guests turned their heads. Across the glittering hall, a worker carrying a tray stood. Frozen, her face, those eyes, that dimple. The unmistakable arch of her brow was identical to his daughter, who had vanished 12 years ago, and what Richard Blackwell was about to discover would not only break him, but strip everything he had built. Richard Blackwell was the man who had it all. A name etched in the skyline, towers of steel and glass carrying his empire. His wealth was whispered in boardrooms and envied in newspapers. But behind the sharp suits and gold cufflinks was a hollow man, because 12 years earlier, he had lost his only daughter, Lily. She had been 10 years old, curly hair bouncing as she laughed, a silver bracelet gleaming on her tiny wrist. That night at the carnival, amidst the swirl of lights and laughter, she vanished. And despite his money, his power, his influence, he never found her. Her mother died of heartbreak. Richard drowned himself in deals, champagne, and silence. His fortune grew, but his soul withered. On a frosted winter evening, Richard hosted one of his famed charity galas. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities all gathered in his mansion of chandeliers and marble. Laughter spilled with champagne. The air reeked of money and power, and then Richard saw her, a worker, carrying a tray of wine glasses. Her uniform was plain, her shoes worn. She kept her eyes low. Yet, as she moved under the chandelier's light, Richard's world collapsed out her face. Her face was Lily's. He gripped his glass too tightly. It shattered against the floor. Heads turned. The worker froze, lifting her gaze. Their eyes met. His heart thundered, as though fate itself had dragged his daughter back from the grave. She tried to slip away, but Richard caught a glimpse of her wrist, a silver bracelet, the same bracelet he had given Lily for her 10th birthday. Custom made, a single engraved rose, with the words, "Forever my bloom." Where did you get that? Richard's voice cracked across the hall, silencing music and laughter. Guests stiffened, glasses half raised. The worker clutched her tray, eyes wide. It's the only thing I've ever had since I was a child. Richard's legs went weak. The bracelet wasn't a copy. It was hers. Her name was Maya. She had grown up in foster care, shuffled between homes, never knowing where she came from. The bracelet was her only possession from childhood. She had no family photos, no birth certificate beyond state papers. Had spent her life working small jobs, kitchens, cleaning, caretaking. She had clawed her way to survival, and now, standing in a billionaire's hall, she was confronted by a man whose grief stared at her like a ghost. "You're Lily," Richard whispered. "You're my daughter," but Maya shook her head. "I'm not your Lily. I don't know you." Richard refused to let it go. He summoned his private investigators, reopening the old wounds. Files resurfaced, grainy carnival photos, failed leads. Case notes smeared with time. The police had suspected kidnapping, but no ransom note ever came. Rivals of Richard whispered that it was punishment revenge against a man too proud, too powerful. Richard had buried it, drowned it. But now every page cut like glass, and Maya, the girl with Lily's face, was living proof that the past had never died. At dinner the following evening, Richard invited Maya. He placed her at his long oak table, silverware gleaming, chandeliers dripping light. He tested her. Childhood songs, family traditions, secret codes he once shared with Lily, but Maya's face only twisted with confusion. "I don't know any of this." "I'm not your daughter." Richard's hands trembled on the table. "You are Lily. You have to be." "That bracelet doesn't lie," the staff whispered from the walls. Guests glanced nervously. The air grew heavy with something more than wealth. Finally, Richard ordered the unthinkable. A DNA test. The days crawled. Maya kept working quietly, though. Whispers followed her through the mansion halls. Some servants pitied her. Others feared what her presence meant. When the results came, Richard locked himself in his study. His hand shook as he tore the envelope. The words blurred through his tears. Positive. A 99.9% matched she was his daughter, but stapled to the back of the file was something worse. A buried report from years ago. Marked ignored. The report revealed the truth. 12 years ago, security firms had warned Richard of threats. Rivals who wanted revenge. They had begged him to cancel the carnival trip, but Richard, drunk on pride, had laughed them off. I don't live in fear. My money protects us. That arrogance had delivered his daughter into the hands of men who ripped her away, and when she vanished, Richard had buried his guilt under steel towers and champagne. It wasn't fate that stole his child. It was his pride. When Richard confessed, Maya's face hardened. You had everything, she said, her voice trembling. But you didn't protect what mattered. You didn't protect me. The mansion fell silent. Business partners, servants, guests, they all watched the Titan strip bare. Richard reached for her, his voice breaking. Lily, she pulled away. My name is Maya. Lily died the night you chose money over me. Richard Blackwell collapsed into his chair, surrounded by gold and glass, yet emptier than ever. His daughter lived, but not as Lily, not as his child. She belonged to herself, forged by pain, survival, and loss. She walked away from the mansion that night, not as his heir, not as his redemption. As Mayan, for the first time, the man who had everything, had nothing.